I think one of the best things to do, and like I've shifted it in that aspect of the mindset, is like when an issue occurs, I'm not sitting there like stressing or anything like that. It's like, right, how do we get past it? What's the solution?
Get a plan in place for the
100%.
issue,
And like,
then follow it.
with the website stuff, when obviously the day we saw it and we were like, oh no, what's happened? Obviously it's a bit disheartening.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
get disheartened.
you're going to be like cold-hearted or anything like that with an issue, but like it's a bit disheartening. But straight away it's like, what do we do next?
Yeah,
Where do we go from there?
then?
And I think our plan was to then let's revamp the website ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's see how good we can get it. And then since then we've done like 2-3 more revamps and stuff, and we're happy with it. We don't need to outsource that side of things. But even with new startups, like when it comes to an individual creating a business plan or creating a plan, automatically you should know your strong points and your weaknesses.
For example, with one of my products, everything was going amazing. I'd sorted my legislation, I'd spoke to solicitors, everything was going great. Then I went to come and get insurance for this product, couldn't get it anywhere. And literally that was like 8 months of my life that I thought was just gone, and like this dream I had for this business. However, I did persevere and I did find someone that could insure me, because I spoke to an insurance company and they were like, there'll always be someone that can insure you. It just depends like how much it's going to be and if that's viable. So I think as well, like in your plan, is being realistic about investments that you're going to have to make as well, and having kind of like that safety blanket to know if something goes wrong, I've got X amount to then cover.
Another thing with the plan is understanding that you should put into your plan periodic review points where you stop and you look back and you go, right, did everything go according to or as expected? No. If not, why not? How do I build that into the next stage? Do I need to push milestones out? Do I need to change target dates? Things like that. Being able to, or understanding that you might need to adapt that plan.
Yeah.
But the only way that you'll know that is if you review it now and again. You think, am I still on the right track?
Yeah.
Do I need to add anything else in? Did I miss something from the start because I didn't know about it at the start?
Yeah.
You know?
That's like, you should do that, like minimum, I would say doing that, like assessing like your previous, 6 months, I would say minimum.
Welcome to this podcast, guys. Thanks for coming along. Topic for today is having a plan, not just a business plan, but a personal growth plan as well. That kind of holistic approach to the business. So, who wants to kick off?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to business, starting a new e-commerce business or a brand, or even just like the marketing side of things, like you need to have a plan 100%. A lot of people will just jump in and just try and do things step by step, but like you haven't got that guidance there. So I think having a plan is essential, and it'd be good in this podcast to sort of show people like the importance of what a plan can actually do. And from what I've seen in my experience working online, people that have a plan are generally the most successful people out there. But besides the business point, obviously having a personal plan as well, like why are you doing what you want to do business wise. So it'd be good to see everybody's take on this and see sort of what you think, what you'd recommend.
I think from a business point of view, I don't know if you guys would say the same, but me personally, when working on my businesses, when I very first started, I would I'm going to do a bit of this, and then I'm going to do a bit of that, and then I'm going to set up some ads, but then I'm going to come back to this, and you just set yourself up to fail doing that because you're trying to do everything, but you can't. You need to be like, right, I'm going to get this absolutely mastered, then I'm going to move on to this. And it's obviously what we teach in the system as well for people as they go through their journey.
I think you need like a methodical plan. So making sure, I think first things first is laying out from start to finish what you need to do, and then going through each step of how you're going to do that, and then going through those steps and identifying, is it you that can do it? Is it someone else that can do it? How much time, how much money are you going to need investment? Because sometimes you can have this amazing plan or product that you want to bring to market, But actually, when you look at the resources that you have, you don't have them. So then it's either a case of, okay, how do I generate this capital? Or am I now going to change my product or change my plan? And then once you've got that, it is a case of following that plan, basically.
Yeah.
So I think if you can do that, that will really help your process. And then knowing what you're doing, it's all calculated. It all has strategies behind it.
Yeah, I think too many people fail because they don't do enough of that.
Yeah.
They don't understand. Too many people fail because they don't map out the whole process in front of them to understand like what's required of them with this product. You know, not just about the product and the target audience and how they're going to get it to market, but like I was sort of mentioning a little bit before about understanding regulatory aspects, or, you know, are there certain certifications that are required for a product that's going to be sold in a particular country? I think all too many people get caught up in buying products or finding suppliers in another country and just thinking like, that's cool, it can be sold wherever, you know, whereas actually in certain countries, certain products can't be sold. So they need to do a little bit of research behind that.
Yeah, for sure.
Understanding certifications.
I think it is, I know we've touched on this in another podcast, but it's like really, I can't think of the word, but managing, like being excited to start your own business, get going, but then also like taking your precautions on what it is you need to do.
Yeah.
And naturally, you know, we can plan, do all the research we want, but sometimes we'll never find out that piece of the puzzle while we're doing it. For example, with one of my products, everything was going amazing. I'd sorted my legislation, I'd spoke to solicitors, everything was going great. Then I went to come and get insurance for this product, couldn't get it anywhere. And literally, that was like 8 months of my life that I thought was just gone, and like this dream I had for this business.
Yeah.
However, I did persevere and I did find someone that could insure me, because I spoke to an insurance company and they were like, there'll always be someone that can insure you. It just depends like how much it's going to be and if that's viable.
Yeah.
So I think as well, like in your plan, it's being realistic about investments that you're going to have to make as well, and having kind of like that safety blanket to know if something goes wrong, I've got X amount to then cover if anything goes wrong.
Yeah.
But like what I always say in terms of branding and marketing, you need to know your product, everything about your brand inside out.
Yeah.
And naturally, when you want to try and have all that knowledge and information, you'll then learn about the legislation, if there's insurance implications and all things like that.
Yeah.
And another reason why we say you have to believe in your product, because then you'll want to know everything about it.
Yeah.
You'll want to, like, if people don't want to buy your product, you should be able to influence them to be like, you need this product. It's incredible.
Yeah. And I think with plans as well, like you need to, like if you have a solid plan down, like most of the time it's probably not going to go like as ironic as it sounds, not to plan.
Yeah.
Like because you're going to hit obstacles, you're going to try something and it's not going to work. Or like even if you were to get to like the marketing stage, you might really struggle with that. So you need to be in that plan for your business and obviously for the individual themselves. Like you need to be open to having certain parts of that plan changed at certain points. If you're somebody that's working through a plan, you're like, oh, this wasn't in the plan, you know, I don't know what to do here. You're going to set yourself up for failure pretty quick. When you hit that obstacle, you're going to panic. You're going to be like, you know, I wasn't prepared for this and stuff like that. So in your plan, as an example, if you're going to be building a store and it's one of your first stores that you're building, and if you think it's going to take you 2 months, give yourself 3 months. Like give yourself the extra time, because the only thing that's going to do is allow you to be ahead of your plan in the long run. So it's like, prepare yourself for the worst essentially, but persevere and do your best.
And I think as well, as you go through that process of building a business, if you have never done it before, like on the personal side of it, it will really hit you on where you're not confident.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, especially in my early journey of business, like where I looked to where I was like 5 years ago and to where I was now, like things were hit with me where I was like, I don't want to do this. It might just be like meetings with someone that's maybe a bit more prestige than myself or whatever. They're really successful, where I wouldn't feel confident to meet them, or maybe like I hadn't said the right things. And then whereas
imposter
like,
syndrome.
Yeah. Whereas like now, that stuff like that wouldn't bother me, especially for me. And I speak about this quite a lot. It's like social media as well, because in the early stages of my business, I noticed that when I spoke on my social media, when I talked about my products, that's when our sales would spike. But I absolutely hated every moment of it. And I think it's just being realistic that in the beginning, there's going to be certain things where you don't want to do it. You're going to just feel so awkward, but you grow if you push past it.
You've got to step outside your comfort zone to grow. And I think it's important to, and you may not, I mean, you don't know what you don't know. Okay, so when it comes to kind of looking at that personal development, what do you need to do? Like, can you identify gaps within your skill set that you need to fill in order to keep pushing on and kind of keep that momentum going? All right, sometimes you may think, well, actually, in order to stick to the plan or as close to the plan as possible, you have to outsource some of that stuff. But you should also be looking at that personal development as well and identifying, okay, well, what strengths and weaknesses do you have within that one you need to work on, and how do you work on those? You know, kind of just that personal development aspects, whether that's patience, whether that's just business mindset, whether
getting angry, like, you know, sometimes when you get to that point, you're like, I literally just want to throw my laptop. Just stay calm.
But like, I guess one of the biggest things, like when it comes to social media, you like saying about that and talking to camera and things like that, you have to remember, we talk a lot about personal brand and you being the face of your brand, and you've got to think about the type of brand that you're going to be and that image that you're going to be putting forward, and PR and being careful what you say on camera is massive when it comes to brand, because you know there are brands out there that are very controversial, so they don't care, and that's fine, but that's because that's their brand. But if you're not established and you don't kind of have that support behind you, then you have to be very, very careful. So kind of educating yourself in that sense and knowing when sometimes you just have to hold your tongue as opposed to just blurting stuff out is a really good skill to learn.
But something that I really learned throughout my journey, like personal growth, is also like how to work with other people. So say like if when, you know, in your plan, you're outsourcing quite a lot of stuff, naturally, sometimes their vision might be different to yours, but how to speak to people where you're still going to get the most out of them, staying calm, staying patient, which I found in my business journey was a really big thing on like trial and error on how to speak to other professionals. I know it sounds a bit silly, but like sometimes when you clash, or I had it with a website once, and I literally thought I was going to have a breakdown. I was like, we're just not clicking. And also being realistic, sometimes you won't click with other professionals, and that completely changes the plan, because you're like, I've just invested X amount with this person, they've done this, but it's just not working out, and then you've got to move on, and that just happens sometimes. And I think as well, it is being at peace with, okay, that didn't work out, but you know, we keep moving forward on to the next one.
We've had that before, Tami, of like some of the businesses with one of our existing businesses, we paid some web developers, even for the Change website. We wanted to have something like fully coded, fully customized, and it was like beyond what we could generally do ourselves. So these guys flew out from Switzerland, maybe, I think, or somewhere in Europe.
Like that.
Yeah, and they flew out, we had a meeting with them, and we were confident. We were like, oh, this is going to go great.
Yeah.
Once again, it was in our plan. And 3-4 months in, it got to like the final week of like where we could see what they've done. Absolutely horrendous.
I know, it's horrible when that happens.
We all sat there and we all knew what each other was thinking. We're like, we've just spent X amount and like it's just wasted. But like what, 3 years on, Change is still here. We're better than ever. So it's like you got to constantly keep going all the time.
Yeah, being able to adapt. And you need to be adaptable, especially within e-commerce, because I think we kind of touched on this like previously. I think maybe where did we go? Anyway, I can't remember where it was, but I'm sure we were talking about this in the podcast about being able to adapt, because the industry changes so quickly.
like every week.
Yeah, the industry changes so quickly with trends and everything that you need to be able to adapt, not just and do it without emotion, not get upset, not get angry.
That is the thing.
Yeah, you kind of just got to be objective with things. Sometimes you have to turn around and go, all right, that hasn't worked, or we're flogging a dead horse here. And removing emotion from stuff.
You just literally reminded me of something. Do you remember the Black Friday offer? We had a Black Friday offer on our website, and something was going on with shipping times, and we literally had so many orders. And it was like every week they were like, yeah, it's now, I can't remember.
So you were waiting for the delivery of stock.
And they were like, yeah, it's coming today. So I'd like email everyone saying there's a slight delay. However, it will be dispatched next week. Then I'd call them and they were like, no, it still hasn't come, but it'll be here. And that literally happened about 3-5 times. Yeah. And I can remember I was on the phone to Tami, literally like in tears because I was like trying to keep up my good level of customer service. And I was like, there's no good amount of customer service that's going to get me over this. But I just got really, really upset about it and really like emotional. Whereas like now I would never be like that now, because it's like, one, what's the point? It's not going to help anything.
That's it.
And two, okay, let's think about this logically. Yeah, we might have lost out on this, but what can we do to make this better, to make our customers, you know, maybe engage with us more, or maybe sympathise with what's going on? Because I think there was
some really nice people, weren't there?
There were some really lovely people. However, there was the few that was like, whatever I gave them, it just wasn't good enough. But that just reminds me of like sometimes, and you know, we're all human. Of course, you're going to get upset about stuff that you're passionate about. Yeah. But also like being like, okay, it's bit wasted energy.
It is. It's because you put your heart into your heart and soul into it, and especially like when you're first starting out and you're just building it and you're establishing it, and you really want it to do well. And when something doesn't quite go right, that can be really disheartening. Yeah,
especially when it's like a bit out of your control.
Like I was talking with a member. Talking with a member a few weeks ago, and he was potentially closing this deal with Lakeland. To supply Lakeland like in store, not just marketplace, but actually in store. And everything was literally like they'd had the purchase order, or stock was on its way to Lakeland. And this comes back to like a little bit about what I was talking about earlier, where they said, have you got this certification or this testing certificate for the product? So he contacted the supplier and went, have you got this? And they said, no. Like, what? So he rang me. He said, right, what do I do? So obviously we looked at what the certificate was, or what the testing standards were. And he was like, I can't lose this deal. I can't. It's like, look, let's just chill. Look, don't think about the problem. We think about what the solution is. Where do we get the testing done? Can the supplier do it for you? If they can't, when do the products arrive? How quickly can we get the testing done? I said, and be straight up with Lakeland. I said, you know, we can, you can work with them, because you want to establish a good working relationship with them from the start, because you want future orders. You want to potentially be able to provide them with different products in the future. So in the end, we looked at a few different suppliers. Testing costs were through the roof, but eventually went back to the supplier. Eventually the supplier came back to him and said, actually, we can do the testing for you at a third of the price of what you do. So managed to get all of that done. Orders already done. Like, Lakeland are happy. And one of the things that was really good for him was the fact that he was honest about it with Lakeland. So they just worked through everything together. They were like, that's cool, not a problem. As long as the certification's on its way, we're still happy. We still want the product. We still want to stock it. So it's just left him in a really good position for working with them in the future.
Really,
and there's also like a fine line, and this definitely comes into putting it into your plan, which is like, obviously you want to make yourself look really established. You want to, you know, like with all the businesses that I've launched, I have launched looking like I'm fully established, have been going for years, and am generating, you know, and it, you know, a lot of money every month, which I had struggled with in my early stages with being honest. So if someone probably would have said that to me before, I wouldn't have wanted to say that I don't have it. But I think it's a fine line, isn't it? Like knowing kind of not whether to be honest, but knowing
How honest you are.
how honest you are, and knowing where to represent yourself.
I'd say always be honest.
Yeah, no,
But
I don't know if that was the right word, but you know what I mean.
Like there are delay tactics that you can put in place to give you the time to get what you need.
Yeah, you manipulate what you've got. Like when I always used to say, we're one of the UK's leading teeth whitening companies. Like, well, we're one of. We are.
Yeah.
Like, so you kind of manipulate things so it sounds an
marketing strategies.
Marketing strategies.
There we go.
Yeah.
Come out to that.
There we go. Don't get me in trouble, James. But yeah, I think there are definitely points where you're working with people where, you know, sometimes you just do have to be honest, which again is a part of your journey, isn't it? Sometimes you might not say the right thing and you'll think like, God, if I would have just said that, it would have worked out a bit better.
Yeah.
But at least that's a stepping stone and you learn for the next one.
It's the journey, isn't it? It's that constant development,
Yeah.
you know, both in your business and in, like personal.
Yeah, that's all, like that example and your example with the shipping, it's all part of, like, unfortunately, sometimes those are the things that give you the best personal growth because you're in the hot water and you're like, okay, I've got to come out of this some way. And you can either, like some people, like with the Lakeland deal, he could have just gone back and said, no, I don't have it. Not even tried, not even looked at options and just thought, oh, that's not going to work. Go find another product.
Yeah.
People do that. You give up too easily because then look what's come from that.
Yeah.
And he'll know as well. He's now got that certificate to go to other places.
Yeah.
So it's also, he's gone slightly off plan, but now he's got like a solid plan moving forward. He's covered for anything future.
Yeah.
And the same with yourself, like, and obviously it was out of your control, but maybe the following year you would have made sure you had that stock in early because you know
exactly.
that. So that's part of growth.
And I think like one thing which I think viewers will benefit from this is when we're looking at the testing. I mean, we're talking testing being in like 5 figures, like levels of testing, and he was like, "Where am I going to get the money from?" But a lot of people don't realise that their local authorities offer grants for small businesses and for startups that you can apply to local authorities. And so we started looking at that for him, for his local authority. I said, like, look, if you need it, that submitting your business plan and kind of bits and pieces to your local authority so that you can potentially get a grant.
Especially if you've got
like
a deal on the way. Like they'd look
so
at that and be like,
the order was placed,
Yeah.
stock was on its way.
I think a good thing to take away from like literally the last like 10 minutes what we've spoken about is when you hit an obstacle, like your mind should be set on what's the solution. Like that is it. So many people hit obstacles, panic, like what you said, Anna, throw their laptop out the window and it's just like they just go crazy. But I think one of the best things to do, and like I've shifted it in that aspect of the mindset, is like when an issue occurs, I'm not sitting there like stressed or anything like that. It's like, right, how do we get past it? What's the solution?
Get a plan in place for the
100%.
issue and like, then follow it.
With the website stuff, when obviously the day we saw it and we were like, oh no, what's happened? Obviously it's a bit disheartening.
Yeah,
I'm not
you do
saying
get disheartened.
you're going to be like cold-hearted or anything like that with an issue, but like it's a bit disheartening. But straight away it's like, what do we do next?
Yeah,
Where do we go from
now,
there?
then?
And I think our plan was to then let's revamp the website ourselves. Let's see how good we can get it. And then since then we've done like 2-3 more revamps and stuff, and we're happy with it. We don't need to outsource that side of things. But even with new startups, like when it comes to an individual creating a business plan or creating a plan, automatically you should know your strong points and your weak points. So if you feel like you're not someone that's good on a camera, you feel like, oh, I can't really do the social media side of it, you should think to yourself, and in that plan should be like, how can you outsource that? Is there somebody or is there somebody that you could pay to do the social media?
How do you get better at it?
Or how do you get
better?
better?
Because you should always be open to, like, you could have a solid business and think, oh, there's nothing else that I can do better. Like, I've really smashed this. But I said this on a recent podcast, but like that event we went to, we went there and 90% of what was said, we're like, we're already doing that. That's really good. We know we're on the right track. But there was 10% of stuff and we're like, wow, like we can take that away. Ryan had a Zoom yesterday with one of the speakers there because he knows that that's a weakness that he has and that guy can help. So yeah, you can outsource, but you can also look into things like maybe, I don't know, maybe you go to a drama class because that will make you better at speaking. Like there's always stuff you can develop yourself, but there's also things you can look at to outsource.
Self-improvement.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. Well, they always say, don't they, like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Find another room. Because it's about constant self-development.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that.
I think as well, like in your plan as well, like obviously we speak to loads of members where they've got their first initial concept and they're kind of like, yeah, and I want this and I want it to have this and I want this box eventually and I want it in there. And I think sometimes as well, it is just like trusting the process to be like, okay, when I first launch this product, I'm not going to have the most luxurious box with my brand on. So it might just be a plain box to begin with. But in your plan, you know, once you're hitting X amount, you're then going to reinvest. So you know the process of your plan is that your product, your packaging, your brand is only going to get better. But we all have to start somewhere with the resources
and it's not
that
trying
we've got.
Jump for that end goal straight away. It's like the end goal isn't end goal, it's at the end.
And
so
I
it's
think,
like building up to that.
I think as well, once you get your client base, and if you can cleverly articulate your story on what you're trying to do, people will follow that journey. And like I know with brands that like I've brought into where you're like, oh, I can remember when they were like this. Now look at them, like they're everywhere, they're here, their packaging's amazing. And it's like I've gone through that brand journey with them. So it's making it a nice experience for your customers to go through that with you. And that's an amazing way for people to talk about your story as well. I know we do it all the time, like where we talk about brands, we're like, oh, can you remember her when she was like selling things from her room and now she's got a shop and she's stocked in here.
It's a great way.
You go through that story.
It's a great way
them.
to get that customer buy-in and customer loyalty and having that sort of showing the behind the scenes of how the business is developing is exactly like you say. The customer feels like they're on that journey with you, and it does. It
and
builds
they're always
that loyalty.
like rooting for you, aren't they?
You talk about like the packaging and stuff a minute ago, and kind of starting small and whatever, rather than jumping straight to the end goal. And we had a member. In fact, we did a mastermind with him a couple of weeks ago, who did exactly that. He wanted to start drop shipping this product, ordered the samples, and the packaging was terrible. It was like, I can't sell that. But I didn't have enough to go straight into white labeling because of MOQs, minimum order quantities and that kind of stuff. So what he decided to do was order a small number of the product from the supplier that wasn't branded, got a small number of custom designed packaging themselves, and then just repackaged the product and then started that small. So once he'd sold them, could then buy more, sold them, could then bigger order, and worked his way up to now he's actually doing full white labeling, branding on the product, as well as customized packaging. So it's not just about jumping straight to the end goal. It's having that vision and that plan. And if that plan, all right, if you've got capital, it might take a year or might take 6 months, however long. If you don't have the capital and you have to generate the capital as you go, then, like you said before, be realistic with that plan. That might now mean to be 2 years, might need to be 5 years before you get there. But it's about understanding that you're going to have to reinvest all the time, to just continue that development.
And I think, like we said, like coming back to what we spoke about at the beginning, like we've spoke about so many different areas in business, is like what you said, having step one, okay, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to account for. Step two, because there's just so many things you need to account for. And if you do it properly, you will have problems, but you're going to minimize all of them. And going on from that, it's like when you get to sending your products out. I mean, we've all been there when we're sending our products out, going to the post office every day. But like, I quite like that journey of doing that. Like, it's like there's nothing.
Good feeling.
Yeah, but like getting those orders and like packing it up. But everyone knows when you're going through that, the next step is fulfillment center and how you're going to do that. That's in your plan.
Or even too many orders that the courier's coming to pick them up from you now.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't take all of this to the post
Yeah.
office. You don't have to pick them up
A
instead.
few vans pulling up a day.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's it. But I think another thing with the plan is understanding that you should put into your plan periodic review points where you stop and you look back and you go, right, did everything go according to or as expected? No. If not, why not? How do I build that into the next stage? Do I need to push milestones out? Do I need to change target dates? Things like that. Being able to, or understanding that you might need to adapt that plan.
Yeah.
But the only way that you'll know that is if you review it now and again. And you think, am I still on the right track?
Yeah.
Do I need to add anything else in? Did I miss something from the start because I didn't know about it at the start?
Yeah.
You know?
That's like, you should do that. Like minimum, I would say doing that, like assessing like your previous, I don't know, 6 months, I would say minimum.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a bit more detailed, like with statistics, do it every 3 months.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that is things like assessing your store. If you've got Lucky Orange on the store, like an app where you can see customers, assess that last 3 months. How's customers been doing? Your ads, yourself as well.
Yeah.
Have you improved in any areas and things like that? That should allow somebody to grow pretty good.
Yeah.
So
I think as well is like celebrating your achievements as well.
100%.
Yeah, because it's really hard though. Obviously, if you're a member, you've got the community, like, you know, people tell us about their achievements like every day. So we're all like, you know, with them celebrating. But when you're on your own and you're trying to do a business, sometimes it's really hard to like be like, actually, like I got my first
I did
order.
that.
I hit X amount of profit this month in my website. And sometimes you don't do it because it's just like, because you're in the flow of everything, it's just like, oh, you know, just
Like, just
hit,
tick off onto the
that's
next.
ticked off. But like, I think if you do that regularly as well, even if it's monthly, like, what have I actually done? What have I achieved? And celebrate it, that will then give you that motivation, determination to keep going. Because you don't want to just focus on the things that you need to
100%.
develop or what's going wrong.
If you're like so obviously be focused on your plan, that's there for a reason. But if you're so focused on it that you're not actually enjoying the journey and celebrating the wins and thinking like, well, that didn't go to plan, but look how I came out of that. Like, you need to acknowledge that because that's what will make you enjoy the journey and that's what will keep you going and to stick out and finish your plan. Well, it never finishes.
Being
always ongoing.
being too focused on the goal.
And you want to enjoy it. That's,
You forget everything you've achieved along the way. Yeah.
Cool. Well, guys, I think it's been a pretty good podcast.
Yeah, it's been nice.
It's been good. I think the importance of a plan like goes beyond just a bit of paper and writing a few bits down. Like
100%,
make it as in depth. And even if there's things like you're not even sure where it goes in your plan, just do one extra page. Like not sure where to put these, but this is a list of other stuff and things like that. But a plan, from what I've seen, like most successful people within our community have solid plans. And like what you said, they're always ongoing. It's not just a 5-year plan. When you've done the first couple years, the years beyond that are probably going to change.
They're
like
different goals.
always updating.
They're like a living and breathing thing. That is going to exactly that. It's going to adapt and change.
But thanks so much, guys, for the podcast. It's been wicked.
Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you.